Sean. This is my third speech, the informative speech, and the topic is the Bolivar Coastal Oil Field. So, one of the largest oil fields in the world is not actually in the Middle East, it's in Venezuela on the northern coast in what's called the Maracaibo Basin. And the area is primarily a giant lake, but it's mostly depression in the ground. There's been a long history of oil production in the area throughout most of the industrialized era, and there's been massive amounts of oil produced, primarily because there's two separate petroleum systems that can be drilled from the same area. You have an older system and then a younger system that's been deposited on top of that. So, a brief history, the natives used to use the oil where it seeped out of the ground in tar pits as a caulk for their ships or as a natural medicine for some ailments. They called it Maine, was their term for it, and so oil was known to be in the area for a long time, but it wasn't actually drilled for production until 1917. World War I stopped any sort of actual oil production in the area, and it didn't increase again until 1922 when they decided to drill out the area. Pan American Oil bought most of the land around the lake originally to start producing some of the first oil wells in that region, but they sold all of their land in 1931 to what would later become Chevron. Chevron increased production immensely during World War II for the American oil effort to help the war effort for America. And they increased oil production until 1958 when the Venezuelan government decided that they didn't want any foreign investors anymore, and they pretty much kicked everybody out and gave all the land for oil production to their own company known as Petróleos de Venezuela. In 1960, Venezuela, along with several Middle Eastern countries, became one of the founding members of OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, to help the economies of oil producing countries. So, for the general geology of the area, the reason it produces so much oil is because this area has been primarily submerged underwater since the Middle Cretaceous. Most of the sediments that were deposited during the Cretaceous have been faulted and broken up by tectonic events that happened during the Oligocene. These faults produce many traps for the oil to actually accumulate and seep into. Due to the lack of tectonic activity since the Oligocene, most of the petroleum systems above this area are mostly just flat stratigraphic areas, and the oil will accumulate where it's been tilted up, and the oil just rises to the surface. In different parts of the area, the strata has actually been tilted, so it actually comes all the way out to the surface, and the oil will turn to tar when it reacts with the atmosphere, and the tar acts as its own seal to keep the oil underground. So the area produces, the lower section can most easily be produced by drilling almost like fracking, where you drill down and then start drilling sideways to cut across all of these traps and the faults, whereas the upper section sticks to normal drilling methods where you just drill into the ground, find the reservoir, and then just pump it all out. So as far as oil production is concerned, to date there's been about 30 billion barrels of oil produced out of the ground, and according to Dr. Borger, there's more than 44 million or billion barrels of oil that are still to be produced in the area. Venezuela's actual oil reserves are estimated to be valued at around $15 billion, and oil production is increasing steadily throughout the area, but about 40% of the oil has already been taken up out of the ground, so it will be producing well into the future. There are currently around 7,000 wells, and most of them are actively pumping right now. And the oil field produces roughly 2.5 million barrels per day. So the basin, Maracaibo Basin, has been a very important oil producing area for most of history, and will continue to do so well into the future. And that's it.